Hello, welcome to the conference. All honor, glory, and praise be to our one and only Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Welcome to the men's conference. Hey, you guys. The topic for this particular conference is blackmail. Blackmail. I believe that a lot of you brothers out there, regardless of your ethnicity, when I say brothers, because I make that specification because when I say brothers, oftentimes the quote unquote African American men are referred to as brothers. But when I say brothers, I'm just talking to men in general. You have to be sober and vigilant of the activities of devious females that will come into your lives only to set you up, or that's it, basically, only to set you up. One thing that you must understand about the devil is that he only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And with the type of world that we're living in today, I don't feel like you all can afford to let your guard down. And men are so driven by their sexuality. And in a lot of cases, with the type of women that a lot of you go after, these are not even attractive women. But just because it's a woman, and if it is a woman that feels that she is up on feminine wiles, then she feels like she can utilize her sexuality to lead you guys into some sort of trap. And oftentimes, by the time you realize that you're dealing with a demon, she's already got dirt on you. But what you should do in a case like that, you have to give it to God. And the way that you disarm someone like that is that you let them know you've got dirt on them too. And you should be able to read between the lines with that statement. You don't ever let somebody just hang something over your head and control your lives and who you are. Because that's who the enemy is. He's a thief. He wants to steal you from you. He's a liar. He will lie to get what he, she, or whatever wants out of you. And oftentimes that's control. And oftentimes you're dealing with the manipulator. And a lot of women, I believe they do things like that to secure the bag. Meaning, they feel like, well, if they're holding something over your head, then now you're somebody that if she needs something, she can get it out of them. Also, a lot of women do it to control your lives as it pertains to your involvements with other women. Or your wives for you fellas out there if you're married, or your girlfriends for you fellas out there that have girlfriends or significant others that are females. A manipulative person is a manipulative person. And oftentimes it could be, you may not be able to initially spot those types of females because they can use feminine wiles to entrap you. It can be a lot of women, they may lean and depend on sob stories, sad stories, and to get your sympathy. And then the next thing you know, you've gotten yourself in a position to where she's got you by the throat, but what you have to do in that case, the way that you disarm someone like that is that you let them know, well, what you don't know is that I've got something on you as well, and you just wait for the reveal. And with some things, you guys, you fellas, you have to read between the lines, and I can't go into any more detail than that. You have to read between the lines because you don't ever let somebody come up against you like that and you don't fight back. Because oftentimes women that are that way, they are accustomed to running men up in some sort of snag. Or it could be a woman that she can't handle rejection. So, perhaps she's threatening, oh, well, if you leave me or if you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to reveal this. I'm going to reveal that. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that. That's a manipulator. That's a manipulator. And what you have to do in that case, a lot of times, you have to allow that situation to play itself out, knowing that you will come out on top. And a lot of you fellas might say, well, that you don't believe you will come out on top, but you can. There is a way. If you really sit down and think, there is a way for you to come out on top. And then, going forward, don't place yourselves in that type of predicament again, because one thing you got to realize is that a snake is a snake is a snake, and it's kind of like a story that it's an old story, an old tale, and I talk about it, I guess, sort of often, about the little girl. I think she was on her way to her grandmother's house, and along her way, she saw a wounded snake, and she took the snake in, I guess, and nurtured him and brought him back to health. And after she had brought the snake back to health, the snake bit her. And, I guess the little girl was like, you bit me, this and that and the third, after all I did for you, and I did this, that, and the third, whatever. It doesn't go like that, but you guys are paraphrasing here or whatever. And the snake told her, you knew what I was before you picked me up. That's a message for some brother out there. You may not have known what that was, but after you know, when you know better, you do better. And a lot of times, whoever you are out there, you have to let things run its course. I don't know who's out there. I'm sure a lot of you brothers out there. So this message is for multiple people, perhaps. Let things run its course. Because one thing a snake will always do is misstep. I can guarantee you of that. They're going to misstep. Because they're going to cross the wrong one. And the wrong one is going to have something that's more powerful than what that snake thinks it has. People always end up crossing the wrong one, I'm telling you, a lot of times. And a lot of times you just got to let the situation play itself out. And another thing that you fellas have got to stop doing. First of all, you need to give your lives to Jesus Christ. And if you have already given your life to Jesus Christ, but you're still dating women in the world, that's a mistake. Because you're dating an enemy. You're dating an enemy within an enemy. Meaning the spirit of Satan is in them. Meaning maybe not necessarily Satan himself, but his mentality, his ways, the way that he operates, his slithering and his slickness and his deception and his lies and his stratagem. He gives them his stratagem. And that's how they're able to coerce you guys into traps and pitfalls. You men out there, you've got to be smarter. And Jesus Christ said in his word, apart from me, ye can do nothing. You're not going to make it without Jesus. You might think you are, but you're not. Because you're not going to be able to exercise the spirit of discernment because you don't have it, because you don't have Jesus. And when you don't have Jesus, you don't have divine wisdom. Street knowledge is okay, but divine wisdom is better. And then that way you're able to discern the types of women that you all are involving and surrounding yourselves around. If she is not saved, you need to leave her where you found her. Because I'm telling you, a demon is going to work through her to take you down. You don't know what people are up to nowadays. You don't know if these women are wearing wires, have recorders, videos, whatever, anything they can use to try to hold over your head to control your lives and your relationships, prevent you from forming other relationships with other women. Well, if you get with her, I'm gonna blah, 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 blah. If you're in a situation like that, you better let it play itself out, because sooner or later, that snake is going to misstep. And when it does, that will be your time to react. Not in a way that you hang yourself, but that's going to be your leverage. I know that much. So, that's all I have to say right now in this particular conference, you fellas out there, you have got to be smarter. Whether if you're a saint or a sinner, you have got to be smarter. And that's not me trying to make anybody feel bad out there. But you're dealing with pythons out there. You're dealing with succubus, what they call succubus demons out there. Women that will use their sexuality and use sex and use their bodies to debilitate a man. You're dealing with more than just flesh and blood. The Bible tells us in the book of Ephesians, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers. And God specifically addresses men in the Holy Scriptures about a whore being a deep ditch and a strange woman a narrow pit. That's the reason why men, you're supposed to have a wife before you get involved in any type of personal interaction with women. Because you don't know what that is. You don't know what kind of spirit is in that woman or in those women. And a lot of them nowadays, they're just looking for a paycheck. They're looking for additional money if they got their own checks. They're looking for a come up. They're looking for a security blanket. They're looking for prey. You have got to be smart out there. We're living in the last days. So that's basically the message out there. If you found yourselves in circumstances and situations with a python, let it play itself out. Because sooner or later, every snake missteps.